So okay, any questions? No questions? I found this new trick, when I don't want to, if I don't want to talk, I simply ask any questions, and then few minutes, nobody does anything. So okay, any questions?
Sir, sir, have you
Yeah.
uploaded the videos for the last two classes? I mean, the ones.
Oh, okay. I'll have to do it. After this, I will do it. So today's is going to be tutorial. That means you will have to write it and upload and all that thing. Okay. So I probably not uploaded. So I will do it today after this class. Okay. So we will continue with the tutorial. Okay, so we were doing about black hole, event horizon, and null surface, and so on in the last tutorial. So let's continue with that. In between, whole thing has changed, but we'll have some minor concept there remaining as to what to do with those event horizon, null surface, and so on. So one of the generalization needed is to, we have seen in the case of Schwarzschild, G00 and G11 are inverse of each other. So this lead to a lot of simplification, especially the infinite redshift and the null surface become at the same position. Now, the question is what happens in general, whether something could be changing, uh, whether you can have a solution in which G00 is not inverse of G11, and then in such case, what could be happening? Now, let us remind ourselves what is a
So your screen is invisible.
okay. So far, nothing. No damage has been done. Let's see whether, okay, my present window screen. Okay, so this is where we go. Okay, so let us quickly remind what is about the Schwarzschild solution. There is some important difference or this thing. This topic is somewhat advanced, so I'm not doing everything mathematically. I'm just giving an overview. So that is why some of the mathematics are left, but it is important to understand about the black hole, what is the difference between the rotating and non-rotating black hole. So let us look at the Schwarzschild solution. What is a Schwarzschild solution? Schwarzschild solution is a spherically symmetric solution. That means you have a system in which you have a metric. It can be written as a something plus r square d omega square. So this is a sphere. In addition, I have been blabbering about this, that T is orthogonal to R, that is a radial coordinate, and which is orthogonal to sphere. So this has been the geometry. So it has been completely a nice geometry where there is no cross term between any of these. So we get the metric written in terms of metric matrix. You have a G00, G11, G, then R square, and R square sine square theta. So, and I have been using this as a positive, this is negative, negative, negative. So this has been the metric in which you have a central object which is not moving or rotating, just sitting there, and that is what you have, is a spherically symmetric object. Now let us think this as a rotating. Suppose your central mass is rotating. We have not done the solve the massive star, so we will do that in the next regular class. We have done the observational or tests of Einstein's theory, that is the gravitational redshift. Then we have looked at the perihelion of Mercury, and then we have looked at the bending of light. Okay, those three are classic tests. Then we will go to the relativistic star, which is a spherically symmetric fluid. Now let's not worry about whether there is a star or not star. You have a spherical symmetric system. Let's say that, for example, I have a basic question to ask here, is that now let us look at the purely in terms of Newtonian gravity. Let's say this is Earth. So let's draw a little neater Earth. Okay, so let's say this is Earth. Earth is rotating, let's say 1 rotation per day. Now you know that it's a rotating frame, and then you have all these things happening, Coriolis, centrifugal, and so on. So you are standing here on the Earth. Maybe you are a believer of a flat Earth model. So then you are standing like this, okay? And let's say that it is rotating like this. And if you are a believer of a spherical Earth, which is also wrong, so you may be standing somewhere here. Now the question comes is that, a simple question is that, somehow you manage to stand here, leave the Earth, and maybe just float using drone, rocket, or whatever it is. And then here too, you are just left the Earth and floating very close to it. Now the question to ask is, if Earth is rotating, would you know or would you not know? If your eyes are tied, you cannot watch the Earth's surface and say that whether it is rotating or not. In other normal way, from the any mathematical perspective, doing a transformation and so on, would you be able to recognize the Earth is rotating or not rotating? Just leaving the Earth, not standing on it. This is the question.
So you mean to say that our eyes are tied, is it?
Huh?
I mean, we can't see the Earth.
No, you can't see the Earth. You are. Let's also assume you are a point object, or you could be even extended object. It doesn't matter. There is. You can see whether you quit the Earth. Let's say you are floating above it. Can you make out whether Earth is rotating or not? Okay, let me first ask, if you are standing on the earth, how do you make out whether earth is rotating or not?
Sir, like, do we know the information of other astronomical objects? Because if like we know by looking at the sun itself, we know it's rotating.
Okay, so that is a one good thing. Let's say that sun is a complicated thing. So let's put some stars here. Okay, and then if you are standing here, this is little complicated, but spherical earth is a lot simpler. So if you are rotating, then you would see that this is moving at some particular speed, and then you would conclude that you are rotating. Well, that is observing at infinity. But can you do some local experiment and can you find out whether Earth is rotating or not? This is a very simple thing, but this has ruined many people's life, I believe. We might as well.
Sir, what about the Coriolis force? Like if we find some deviation in any normal throw, but
Yeah,
I guess on a small scale it will be too small to calculate.
oh, that's fine. Let's use a little bigger scale, but still.
Yeah. Then Coriolis force I think can tell us.
How?
Suppose if you do end up throwing, suppose from south to north, if you do have a compass, and over any large throw, any straight throw should have a deviation, right? Oh, but I don't know if
That's a too large scale. There is a local experiment, means you are put it in a room. You can choose it to be little large, your hostel room or your lecture hall, or you can even Google Meet room, whatever.
Sir, maybe we could.
Foucault's pendulum.
That is exactly the answer I was looking for. This is you studied in school and forgot in the school.
Yes, sir.
It's a good thing. Philosophically, you should be present now, but focal pendulum, which actually gives information whether Earth is rotating or not. Okay, let us simplify this experiment. There is this Newton. Newton is a evil genius, whatever he did not understand, he simply put it under the rug and said that it is all right. So he thought of an experiment. The experiment is fairly simple. You go to North Pole. Well, it is not necessary, but if you have a focal pendulum, it is not necessary. But if you don't have a focal pendulum, let's say that you don't have one, and then you go to North Pole, and you simply hang a bucket filled with water and then watch it. If it is exactly aligned with the axis of rotation, then you see that the fluid would be rotating, and outside the fluid will be experiencing centrifugal force, and the inside one will not do it. And that end up, let's say, again, flat Earth model on the North Pole. And then you have this axis, and then you hang a bucket and then let it go round. Okay, this is a nice bucket. So if I'm redrawing it, there are no two poles here. So now you see that as per theory, the surface should look like this, exaggerated, of course, that because of rotation, this would happen. Now, let us leave this bucket a little up, and then there is a principle called Mach principle, which says that whether you can distinguish if the universe is rotating and Earth is standing in the center, would you able to make out? That's a more complicated thing. We will not bother about Mach principle. So Mach principle seems to have had a considerable impact on Einstein. So he was very much worried about all these things. You can understand that the concept of acceleration is a global concept in the Newtonian mechanics. So it leads to a lot of problems. Anything global leads to a lot of problems. Somehow GR seems to have overcome, but Einstein seems to be fairly influenced by this. Let's leave those things aside. And now question is, this bucket was, let's say that on the North Pole, this is my Earth, and it was kept on the floor on the North Pole, aligning like this. And then Earth is rotating, this bucket is also rotating, and then you see the shape. Now, if you leave the Earth and suspend somehow with the rocket, drone, and all that thing, and push it little above this, okay? Now it's only Earth rotating, not the bucket. Then it should not be, its surface should not be changing or changing. That is the question. No? No idea?
Sir, could you repeat the last point again?
No, see why the bucket water level is changing, because it is rotating with Earth. I am doing two experiments. In one experiment, I kept the bucket on the Earth, okay, aligned with the axis of rotation on the North Pole or South Pole, whatever. South Pole, you have to be a bit careful. The water might fall down. So let's say North Pole. Okay. So on the North Pole, then you see that it is rotating, and then a parabolic shape is created on the surface fluid, because it experiences the centrifugal force or whatever, all that thing is happening there, and then it is rotating with the Earth. Now I am putting some small rocket or drone. Nowadays drones are more fashionable. So you suspend it slightly above the North Pole, okay, and then see the level surface of the water in the bucket. Should it be changing as a parabolic shape with the as you have seen it on the Earth? Do you believe it would be parabolic on the surface of Earth? That is the first question. If you don't believe that, then the second question itself has no meaning.
Sir, it will be parabolic slightly on the surface of the Earth.
Yeah, so this has been done by many people. There is astronomer uses, they use a large bucket of mercury and rotate it. Parabola is a good surface for making telescope. So they make a telescope with the liquid mercury, which is rotated on the surface of Earth. So that is true, that has been done. But what is not been done is thought experiment. GR is full of thought experiment. So let us suspend this little above Earth. And then should the shape be changing or not changing? This is the question.
Sir, I mean, if it initially started from the surface of the Earth, then it carries that rotation with it as it's hovering, right?
No, let's say that we are just starting a bucket there itself. Forget about the initial conditions.
Sir, I don't think so. We'll see a parabola.
You will not see. Yeah, this is a point about the Newtonian theory, right? You just leave the rotating Earth, and then you just don't see whether Earth is rotating or not rotating. So it is completely decoupled between the rotation of and the gravity, right? There is no way to figure out. But this is not what is happening in the case of Einstein's theory. Einstein's theory is currently very complicated. You see that various examples of this equivalence principle has been done and so on. So rotation and gravity get decoupled very seriously. and then they begin to do all sorts of funny things. The one of the funny thing which it does, which we generally called as a frame dragging, is that when an object is rotating, it drags the entire space-time around it. That means that if you leave the Earth and do this floating bucket experiment, then still you would see some effect of rotation. So entire thing to describe is way beyond this course. But one of the classic example where it comes is a rotating solution to the Einstein's equation, which is a generalization of a Schwarzschild metric, which is called the Kerr metric or Kerr solution. So let me write down the Kerr metric and describe how it is different. It is actually too complicated compared to Schwarzschild. So it's a rotating field, actually symmetric, and then it is a time independent. So there is an enormous difficulty going from simple Schwarzschild to Kerr metric. So the example, the Schwarzschild solution was simply solved within a couple of months after Einstein proposed the solution, general theory of relativity, while Kerr metric was solved in mid-60s, 70s. So this makes it that the whole idea of getting a rotating solution to Einstein's equation has been a very complicated job. Finally, it was achieved almost at the similar time scale by Kerr and Newman and all those people. But it is Kerr who gave the first solution, which is popularly known as a Kerr metric. So you can see I'm still writing that Kerr metric. It's fairly wrong, and I never managed to remember it myself.
Sir? Sir, I mean, in the first coefficient, is there a 2 there? I mean, on top of sigma or not?
Let me finish this. If you ask me in between, I'll be completely lost. Okay. Let me finish writing and then do a bit of typo correction first round, and then we will get into all this. So this is a messy stuff. Okay, I think I've finished writing. So there is 2mr sigma dt square 4m r sine square dt. Okay, okay, I'm done. Now you can ask me what is the problem.
So in the first coefficient, we have written a sigma, right? Minus 2mr by sigma. So, I mean, is there a 2 there? Yes, sir. In the denominator.
No, not 2. Why do you think?
So it's just sigma, right? Minus 2mr by sigma.
It is sigma. It is sigma. There is no 2 there. Okay. So I don't know how you got that idea. This is too complicated to have any intuition to come around. So let me write down what is delta. So delta is the r square plus a square minus 2mr, and then sigma is r square plus a square cos square theta. Okay, you see that one of the first difficulty comes here is that there is a cross term between theta and phi. So this is what happens, the difficulty of mixing up. So what happens is the metric, you have a, let me write down the matrix. So you have a G00.
Sir, can you show the last page just once? I
will show it back. This is just to show you symbolically what happens. This is all 0. This is all 0, and then G33. Then you have a G11, G22, and G33. You see that there is a G03 cross term in the metric, which is a bothersome. Rest is okay, but that is the one which is creating all the hell out of whole thing. Okay, here is the metric. So you see that G03. Now, first thing, yeah.
Sir, can you tell me why we're talking about this metric in the first place? I mean,
Yeah, the first place, the metric is that you needed a metric in which you do not want a G00 is equal to 1 by G11. Okay, it is not possible to have in a static case. It turns out that most of the case this condition is true. Now, if you want an event horizon which is separate from the static limit, then this should happen. So the first case where it happens is that the Kerr metric, where rotation of a space-time is built in. So now you can see that this is a G11 terms. Okay, G11 lower 1 is a sigma by delta. So the metric is of this form. So you can easily figure out that the G11 upper one would be simply 1 by G11. So there is no problem there. And for these two, it is true, but G00 and G33 and G03 get coupled. So inversion of that you have to do more carefully. So we will not do it. Anything which involves messy algebra is difficult to do. So now in this metric, let us first find out whether we can figure out we could have null surface. Null surface means what? We can take f of r is equal to constant, and then we calculate the norm. NA is equal to df by dxa, and then put for the condition that the G0, okay, actually it should be GAB, NA, NB is equal to 0. So this is a way we find out the event horizon, and then we can do that. F of r is equal to 0, and then we do that. What we get is simply 0, 0, 0. So this is a case which we get. And then you see that G00 is equal to 0 is a condition for null surface. F of r is equal to constant. Now let's put that condition. Not G00. I made a mistake. So this should be G11. What is G11? G11 is we can calculate. G00 is a minus sigma. G11 is sigma by delta. I am ignoring the minus sign, and then G11 would be delta by sigma. So this is equal to 0. We don't care what is sigma. Let's look at the delta. Delta, I said that delta is equal to r square plus a square minus 2m. What was that? R. 2mr a. Where is the delta? 2mr. Okay, so that is not a. 2mr, that is a solution. This is equal to 0. So this is what we need to do. I am a bit confused. Let me check what is really sigma here. Where do I get now Kerr metric? So now what do you get? You get a second order polynomial. So there should be two solutions. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
yes, sir.
So what does it mean? There are two horizons.
I don't think so, sir. We should probably solve for the solution and look for a r greater than 0.
Yeah, so let me first get that factor right. You know, best is to check in the internet. Kerr metric. It has come to Einstein. Okay, Kerman. Delta is equal to 2mr. Okay, this is fine. There is no A. So let's now solve. What should be the solution? Minus m, is it? Hello? Plus or minus square root of what happened?
So it will be plus m.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Plus 2m.
plus 2m. Okay, can someone guide through this? What should be the next?
4m
4m
square
square is 4a square.
4m square.
minus
Then
4a square.
Minus
4a square.
4a square. Okay, divide by
2.
2.
2. Okay. So this is a solution. Let us go to next page. Cut this. So we can get rid of this 2, 2, 4, 4. Okay, and then this line 2. And that means that the horizon plus or minus is equal to m plus or minus square root of m square minus a square. Now, what is your first? Okay, I completely forgot to tell you various parameters here in the metric. So the m is a mass, okay, and a is a rotation parameter which you call. It is a mass angular momentum of a rotating object per unit mass. Okay, so that's about it. So you have a rotation, and second thing, important thing to notice here is that as a goes to 0, this becomes a Schwarzschild metric. It's simple to show that sigma simply becomes r square, and then this becomes 2m by r, and then cross term goes away because there is a ra here, and then whole these things simply goes away because it has a here, r square is there, so r square sine square there. Delta would be simply r into r minus 2m, and then that would be taken care by this, and this becomes simply r square. So as a rotation parameter goes to 0, it becomes Schwarzschild. Otherwise, you would have cross term. Now, this looks like a competition between the this thing. Let us put a is 0 here in this case. Then you would see that it becomes plus or minus m, minus m give to 0. So it is 2m is where you have a Schwarzschild event horizon or null surface. In this case, it changes depending on A. A becomes more and more, it deviates from the Schwarzschild. So what you have is a r is equal to 2m here, and then it goes inside, right? It goes inside because you are subtracting something from that. And then you are adding something to this, so which is smaller than m. So basically you have a event horizon going inside as m increases. Okay, so there are two solutions. One is we call an inside solution and outside solution. Basically you have I am putting plotting on the equatorial plane, so you can see that let's draw various things with different possible colors. So the first one is, let me see whether there is some circle here. Okay, let's call this 2m. Okay. Now you see that when a is 0, this is what your solution is. And then as a becomes larger and larger, this becomes smaller and smaller, and then it goes away completely. When a becomes greater than m, then this cannot have any value. It is imaginary. So the event horizon completely goes away. As a goes to m, there is one event horizon, as it is called the maximal rotation. That is where you have a last null surface, and when a greater than m, no event horizon. It becomes complex, and then that is called the naked singularity. So you can see that there is a limit on how fast a black hole can rotate. The angular parameter can at the most become 1. If it become more than 1, it would simply go away. There is no event horizon. And there is an inner horizon, which is coming because of the second solution. And when a becomes larger and larger, this grows outwards because you are adding something to it. And when both at some stage would meet, and then that is where you have a extremal black hole. Inner horizon meets with the outer horizon, and then that is the last, and then they simply collide and vanish, and no event horizon happens. Okay, so this is the structure of event horizon in the Schwarzschild case. It is this thing. So there is a one-way membrane, ingoing one-way membrane, and then there is an outgoing membrane from inside. Inside membrane, you don't have to worry, because once there is a one-way membrane outside, there is no way of knowing what is inside. If there is a one-way membrane, there is one more membrane inside, or maybe not. We don't care, because outside one block everything, and that outside one get completely destroyed when a becomes greater than m. So that is called the maximal limit of Kerr metric. Is this idea okay for the rotating event horizon? Event horizon goes away at some stage. When it is non-rotating, it matches with the Schwarzschild.
So, can you repeat the last point where you said about the inner horizon growing and meeting the outer horizon?
No, it's simply based on this equation. So you are, see this, you are just simply adding. When a is equal to 0, then there is only 2m. So that is your event horizon. When a is some value, then you have this number, finite number, which is slightly smaller than m. Then you are adding that to your event horizon m. Okay, it is let's take m to be 1, and then this is 1, and this is slightly smaller than 1. So 1, you are adding that. That means you are going slightly inside 2m. That is outer horizon. The second one, you are basically subtracting that. That means there is one more one-way membrane here, and that is outside. As a becomes larger, so this this difference becomes smaller and smaller, and then you becomes this started going in, and this coming out, and then at some stage they meet, and that is m, and that is where a becomes m. Then they meet, and then they inhale each other, if you want to see it like this. And there is no event horizon. There is one event horizon at a is equal to m, and there is no event horizon when a greater than m. So that's simply coming from this quadratic equation. There is nothing fancy happening here other than that. One can see it how the geometry happens in 3-dimension, but we will stick to that little later. But let us first try to understand them in the simple terms. Here it is independent of theta, so it is just sphere. It's not actually sphere, but it is r is equal to constant. In the curved geometry, r is equal to constant need not be sphere. So that is another thing you can look at into this. So when you put r is equal to constant, so that is theta and phi. So you see that it is not a sphere. Sphere means it should have a r square d omega square. So you don't get that. So r is equal to not constant is in principle is not sphere, but we still call it a sphere because it represents r is equal to constant. It's a loose word, but geometrically it is not sphere. Same way, the event horizon is represented by r is equal to constant, but it's not really a sphere. That's a separate point. We could like to call it sphere because it represents r is equal to constant. Okay, so that is about event horizon. Now, what we got to see is that the static observer, what happened to static observer? Static observer UA is given by some e power phi 1 and 0, 0, 0. No velocity involved. Okay. Now this get little messed up because you see that G normalizing constant UA is equal to 1 implies that G 0, 0 e to the power 2 phi is equal to 1, or G 0, 0 or e power 2 phi is equal to 1 by G 0, 0. So this is, we have seen one of the reason static limit and the event horizon was matching because G 0, 0 and is equal to 1 by G 1, 1. So those two conditions match, but in this case, it is not. It is fairly complicated. So you can see that G 0, 0, we have 1 minus 2 mr by sigma. This is equal to 0 is a condition for the static limit. Now you can see that what happens here. Let's put that value and figure out what is sigma is r square a square. So it is sigma minus 2mr is equal to 0, or r square plus a square cos square theta minus 2mr. Okay. Now you see that it depends on the theta. You can figure out how it depends. So you can solve for r. So you can see r is equal to I need some help. M plus or minus square root of 4
M square.
4m
4m square.
4m
4m square minus
minus 4
4a square cos square theta.
A square cos square theta. Okay, then divided.
Sir, divided by 2 will be only for the second term. So the
Okay,
first one is m already.
this is gone.
Yeah, this is the
Okay,
answer.
yeah.
So then you have a m plus or minus. Okay, we can't do anything here. So m square minus a square cos square theta. So it depends on theta. So when theta is equal to 0, you can see that it takes the minimum value. When theta is equal to cos theta is equal to 0, pi by 2, it takes 2m. Okay, so it's not 2m. It is what happens when theta is equal to pi by 2, it becomes m plus or minus m square minus a square. So it's a event horizon condition,
No,
right?
sir, pi by 2 cos theta goes to 0, right?
Oh, this is
Yes, sir.
sorry. So this is simply 2n. Other case it is 0, 0 and 2n. Okay. When theta is equal to 0, then it is becomes m plus or minus square root of m square minus a square. It matches with the event horizon. Okay. So you see that event horizon for some non-zero a would look something like this, and then your static limit would match onto event horizon when theta is equal to 0, and then it would deviate and it becomes like this. It's a crude picture. You can look for better picture. So this is 2m, okay, and then this is where it reaches wherever this thing, and then there is the matching at the poles. So this is how the stationary limit and the event horizon this is event horizon. Once you go in, you cannot come out. This is a region in which you cannot stay rest, okay, because this cannot be made time-like. Static observer cannot be time-like. So one has to keep rotating here, keep on moving. But this is not a one-way membrane. That means that somebody can go in and come out. It is possible. You have to choose the proper initial condition. But here, no matter what you do, once you go in, you cannot come out. It is you are stuck forever. So that is the event horizon and difference between the static limit and the event horizon. Now, when you extend this, you will see that the black hole would go and hit when A becomes m. You can see what happens. M is equal to plus or minus m into 1 minus cos square theta, and then you have m and m here, which is common, and then you have this identity. This becomes 1 minus cos square theta is a sine square theta, and this is sine theta. So you can see that the event horizon doing some funny things at that point. When theta is equal to 0, it has to match event horizon. But when theta is equal to pi by 2, it goes to 0, and various funny shapes and figures it produces. You can do this plot with your plotting, your favorite plotting app, and see. But this is a part. Let's cleanly draw these few things. One is you have an event horizon, which is r is equal to constant, and then there is an angle dependent stationary surface, which would look something like this. Okay. Okay. There is a reason. This is one-way membrane, and this is the static limit or stationary limit. So this is called the ergo region. Okay, where observer cannot remains rest. They'll have to keep moving, and once they push inside black hole, they cannot come out. But there are some interesting initial conditions which allows a particle to go in and come out. Okay, so that is possible, but this is stuck inside. Once you go inside, you cannot event horizon, you cannot come out. Is this idea clear?
So the oval shaped figure is the static limit, right?
Yes, we can call it a stationary limit in this case because it's a stationary metric. Static means it is slightly different. Here, why it is called stationary, I can tell you little later. But is there any other question? This is a static limit or a stationary limit, and this is the event horizon. You can go in there, but you cannot come out. But in the static stationary limit, you can go in and come out as well, but you cannot remain rest there. You will have to keep moving. In the Schwarzschild case, both matched, and there is no difference. Inside black hole, you cannot remain rest. But this, there is a small region outside black hole in which you cannot remain rest. There are various interesting physics could happen there, such as a Penrose process and so on. So that we will, I'll try to shortly describe it, not going through the full rigorous mathematics, but quickly tell what it is. But let us take a few minutes break and then join back after 5 minutes. Okay. Meanwhile, you think over it, and if you have some questions, you can ask. Okay, any questions? Okay, any questions? Let us, if there are no questions, let us first see something very interesting happens here because of the difference between event horizon and this thing. So you see that the metric is independent of time. So there should be a conserved quantity, which is 1 minus 2 mr sigma into T dot is equal to what we call is a E. Okay. So, or we had a similar thing in the Schwarzschild, but that had a different theta dependency was not there. So here sigma is dependent on T, and then this is G00. Now you see that you have a picture like this. Okay, in the Schwarzschild case, this and this matched, but in this case you have a difference. That means that you see that in this region, this quantity flip the sign. Okay, so what does it mean? If you have an energy, okay, E is energy which is conserved. So inside that would simply flip the sign. Is that what it means? This is a question.
Sir, could you repeat?
Now you see that I have just quickly jumped because I have done. We have done this too many times. For the time-like particle, let's take the first equation of motion. That is a T equation of motion. The metric is independent of time. So you would have first equation of motion is given by this. This is simply constant because the metric is independent of time. So same as Schwarzschild, there is no difference. Only difference here is that the sigma is a theta dependent, and then that would become 0 on this surface while event horizon is inside. In the Schwarzschild, it was okay because both happened at the same time, and when that flipping of sign happened, you are already inside black hole and you have no chance to see what is happening. But in this case, in the small region outside, there is this sign flip happens to this quantity, and then that means that, does that mean that energy becomes negative? So that is a question. Yes, any idea? We have not said anything new. It said that if metric is independent of time, there is energy conserved, which is given by this simple quantity here. So that seems to be simply flips its sign in the ergo region. Is it okay?
Sir, can you repeat what you said? What flip sign?
No, this quantity, right? This quantity flip the sign, right? You have seen that 1 minus 2m by r, which is a G00, has a positive value outside this ergo region. When in the ergo region, it becomes 0, and then inside that, it is a negative quantity. So that means that your infinite redshift surface is been this, and inside that, you have this sign is flipped. Of course, you say it is blows up, that we know it is a coordinate effect. We can use some more fancy coordinate system to get rid of that, but the sign flip happens which is independent of this. It seems to be the properties of a geometry itself. Do you follow what I am saying? The G00 component, this is a G00 component, right? G00 component is positive outside the ergo region. It is 0 on the ergo region, and it is negative inside the ergo region. Till the event horizon we care. After that, what happens, we don't care. Does that make a energy negative? That is a question. Because the energy sign is connected with this, E dot G00 into T dot is a energy. Does that mean that the energy becomes negative in the event inside the ergo region?
Sir, sir, T dot
No, T dot is
it
given to you,
positive
right?
always?
You are not bothering the given for given T dot, either positive or negative. It doesn't matter. The sign flips happens there, right? Let's say T dot is positive. That is given in the beginning. You are not changing it much. It is a T dot. We are starting with initial velocity. It could be positive. So in fact, this is true that the energy observed, yeah.
Sir, I mean, for a bounded system, energy is negative, right?
No, that is fine. That is not this energy, right? That's a total energy which is coming because of E plus V. This is a
Okay,
energy.
but the so the E we write here is the energy of the particle, right, which is trying to enter and then leave the system. Okay.
Yeah. No, this is a energy which corresponds to the rest mass energy also, right? Here, particle is not moving. We are not considering any kinetic energy at all. It is energy associated with the rest particle also. You need not have a other r dot, theta dot, phi dot does not come into picture here, right? When you say bound orbit has a negative energy, it means that the total energy It involves the kinetic energy, potential energy, and all. This is basically the rest mass energy of the system.
Okay.
You see that it becomes negative. So it is true, there is no way to avoid it. This has been a problem. It's not a problem, it's just a mathematical thing. Once you are inside, you will have to keep moving. That part, total energy might be still remain same. There is no way to change it. So, but this portion becomes a negative at all. So that idea is being used effectively by Penrose to generate what is called the Penrose process to generate energy from the black hole. So idea here is simple. So you have an particle, let's say, coming with the energy E into the black hole. Okay, then this particle splits into two. Okay, and this one will have a E1 and then this will have a E2. So here this is a negative number. So you can push that into the black hole, so that the one with the negative energy is pushed into black hole. That means this E2 will have to be greater than E2 is greater than E1. Okay, that can be arranged to come out. Then the particle which went in with the energy E1 came with the energy E2, which is greater than E1. So that means you are extracting energy from the black hole. That negative energy, which in the ergo region, particle which is being pushed into black hole. So now we don't know. That can sit inside the black hole and have its party there, but we don't care. So particle which came outside will have a plus energy. So this is called the Penrose process. You can actually do it by considering the collision problem which we have done earlier in special theory of relativity. You can take the 4 momentum P1 breaking into P2 and P3, and then the energy E1 corresponds to this will become negative in the ergo region and goes inside, and then this would be positive and comes out. All the rigorous calculation you can do, and consistently you can show that you can have E, in this case you can call E1 and you can call this E3. Okay, E1 is greater than no, E2 is greater than E1, and you can extract the energy from the black hole. And now you think that where does this energy come from? This comes from the rotational energy of black hole. If you keep doing this, the black hole rotation would slow down, and then eventually the ergo region would vanish. You know that when A becomes 0, it becomes Schwarzschild, and that is what would eventually happen. But this is a very fine-tuned process. So to extract energy, you need to very carefully choose the condition E1, E2, and E3 such that you can extract. But it is possible to do it. That is what is called the Penrose process of extracting the energy. This happens because of the ergo region where the time-like killing vector becomes negative, and the corresponding conserved quantity also become negative, and that is what you are exploiting to add the negative energy from the system and come out with the larger energy outside. Bit confusing, but it is can be done completely rigorously by using the Kerr metric. It doesn't happen in the Schwarzschild. You need the rotation because it's a rotational energy which is converted or extracted out through the Penrose process. Any questions? No questions? Okay.
Sir,
So-
on a side note,
Yeah.
is this what happened in Interstellar?
No, Interstellar, this is not what happened. Interstellar is a little more complicated. So they are trying to say that when you go inside Kerr metric, you hit the singularity or wherever, their quantum effect would happen and the space-time would be degenerate or whatever, and then you can come with the being a lot younger the outside. So that's a little more fiction involved there. When you have a fiction, you cannot mathematically show everything because we don't know what happens when you go inside event horizon. But ergo region, you can always come out and say what happened there. And one of the things you can do is you can throw out the one of the interesting thing is that let's say that you are a gymnast, very thin gymnast with carrying a dumbbell, okay, and then you have this event horizon and ergo region. You enter into this and then you drop the dumbbell into the black hole, which goes inside with the negative energy, mind you, and then you come out with the very strong muscles. You know, a big guy come out. So this is like a Penrose process you can use to do exercise by throwing your dumbbells into the black holes and come out with. Here you don't have to exercise. You just have to carry dumbbell and throw into the black hole and you become bigger and stronger.
So, sir,
Yeah.
sir, I mean, have we actually observed like stars or other objects going inside the ergo spheres of black holes and coming out? I mean, like experimentally or as in observation.
Yeah, so there are several problems. A black hole has been not observed that closely. So one problem is you see that the sun has a radius about 3 kilometers when it becomes black hole. Sun is not rotating that fast, but galactic black holes, which would have about the size of solar system, okay, 30, 40 astronomical unit or 100 astronomical unit. It's only very recently people have managed to see very close to black hole. But there is some interesting effect, what is called the super radiance. The super radiance is the idea of this, that you are hitting black hole with some fields, okay, scalar field or whatever it is. And then because of the black hole rotating, this doesn't happen in non-rotating black hole. If they satisfy this Penrose condition, the scalar field or electromagnetic or gravitational field, whatever it is, could be arranged such a way that some portion of it goes inside in the ergo region and some comes out from the ergo region, and then the out one could have carry larger energy. So it has been seen that statistically that this could be a possible in an astrophysical black hole. So that is a kind of indirect evidence telling that Penrose process could be possible in the astrophysical events. When there is something very close to black hole happening, then you could end up coming out with the larger energy of the field than which you have sent in. Of course, all thing comes at the cost of rotation of black hole. It looks like it is better to have a black hole rotating faster and faster. But yeah, that eventually it would slow down and then you can extract some energy. So there are some indirect evidence for that. We will might have to still see it. Super radiance have been well studied, but mostly theoretically. Observing them may not be a simple thing to do. but that is the most likely candidate for observing a black hole. But in the recent times, there is something known as a black hole in the sink, or that is called the fluid dynamics black hole. You can have a rotation. Fluid is a very closest Newtonian thing to the general theory of relativity. So you could have what is known as acoustic black holes. There people have seen that it is possible to have a super radiance where you rotate a fluid and then speed up with the speed of sound would act as your barrier, and you could have a event horizon like thing, and there you can check the super radiance and all that thing. So that is another test bed, but the theory there is not nonlinear theory as a general theory of relativity. So this is what the static observer happens. You will have a rotation which makes the static observer go completely different compared to the static case or a spherically symmetric case. So I'm going to stop here. We'll not continue discussing anything about curve metric. We will go back to spherically symmetric Einstein's equation with fluid. That is what we call is a spherical star. That may be one lecture finished. We just go back to Einstein's equation, solve it with the fluid equation of state. I believe you have some experience with the Newtonian star. You understand what is the equation of states and all, relation between pressure and density.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then it is fairly simple. Instead of Newtonian equation, we simply solve Einstein's equation with source. We have already done for vacuum solution. We have all the expression. We just need to put them together. But you see that there was some error in those. Some of them have pointed out, some of them have not pointed out. So that tells who pays attention and who doesn't pay attention. But anyway, that we'll restart those things independently of what is being done, because that looks like it is done way too long back. Okay, any questions?
So, can you open the submission portal?
Yes, okay. I have to do all that. Let me do that.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, did you upload the, online classes that you took? The last class. And
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
class
will do it today afternoon. I will do it. Okay, and I think today is the third one. This week, nothing has been done. I will do it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, but first let me open this link for.
So,
Yeah.
so in this case, when the energy becomes negative, what happens to energy conservation?
Energy?
Energy conservation. What happens to energy conservation?
Oh, energy conservation is valid. It doesn't break down anything. It just the component get shifted from one to another. The full picture has to see, you have to use r theta phi coordinate. Everything need to be solved. So UA is always 1. That condition is put in. Only thing is that what you call is a rest mass energy only become negative, not everything else. total energy has to be conserved, right? There is no way you can break all that. That is why that energy eventually comes at the cost of black hole rotation. But these are all hand waving thing, because nobody has really solved this problem in the full scale. People all do particle approximation. When you do particle approximation, there is no way of knowing how black hole reacts to subtracting energy or adding energy. So this is an in principle question, but people believe that it would happen in general too. So first order approximation people can do and so on. But see, test particle means that how the test particle is going to extract energy. Our basic assumption of the test particle means that it is not going to disturb your background. So that has been completely, uh, broken here. So there are a lot of ifs and buts, but I think first order calculation one can do little more accurate. But beyond that, when you do, what happens is that it's a nonlinear theory. It gets completely complicated and you cannot solve the equations. But it is understood that from perturbative solution also, the super radiance has been observed. Not observed, at least seen in the equation. So that is what gives you more confidence that this is what could be happening. There are a lot of ifs and buts, because you are using the particle approximation to say that there is some back reaction onto the black hole. So this may not be correct.
Okay. So here the rest mass energy is defined as the coefficient of that t squared.
Yeah, this is basically, it comes from the simple principle that your metric doesn't depend on the time. So there is a time like killing vector. So your for momentum taken dot product with the time like killing vector should be a constant, because that depends on where you evaluate it. Inside event horizon, it turns out to be negative. So it has to be done a little bit carefully, that you have to create that particle inside the ergo region. One of the way is to create the collisional process. That's why it is called collisional Penrose process. So you create a new particle, which there it will be created with the negative energy, and that falls into the black hole. So you can do the exact calculation. You just have to do the collisional process with the momentum balance, and that has to be done inside the ergo region, and then suitably adjust the parameter to find out the extract the energy, and you can maximize this energy extraction to get the best out of it. People have done all such calculations, and it turns out that from within the approximation, it's a genuine process. But then you might question the basic process itself, how the test particle, which is a basic assumption you have assumed to violate the geometry. So that is a what problem. Okay, I have created upload link. I will try to upload all the videos to the YouTube now. Since it takes some time to get those video link, that is the biggest problem. Okay, I have older ones. Today's one would happen only in the evening. Okay, any other questions?
Sir, hello.
Ah,
I'm a bit confused about this Argosphere.
yeah,
So, we took a static observer, the
yeah,
time-like observer, and
yeah,
we got the factor to be 1 over G00, right?
yes,
And we put the condition G00 equal to 0.
yeah. That is infinite redshift, or the static limit is given by G00 going to 0.
So, how we are saying that some observer is going inside, or I mean, when it will hit the boundary,
Yeah,
its force velocity kind of diverges.
yeah, yeah. No, that is one point I did not mention. So this we will do it in the Schwarzschild. Okay, this is a good that you asked this question. Otherwise, I would have completely missed it. So we will have to. There are a few things which I need to show in the Schwarzschild case. The first one is that the event horizon is a coordinate, not event horizon. That G00 going to 0 and all that fancy thing happening, some of them are a coordinate effect. So you can have a suitable coordinate in which some of these blowing up can be eliminated. So once that is done, there are what is remaining is a truly physical condition, such as time-like vector, killing vector becoming null, that is, which is a static limit that holds, because you see that it is a dot product of a killing vector which is a 1 0 0 0 0, all 0 except first component is 1. That vector becomes null. So that is what condition. It is a coordinate independent. So it is going to remain no matter what you coordinate transformation you do. So that is why you believe that that is a physical effect. So that means that the static observer being present, that you are not able to stay rest at that point, is a real physical effect. But that blowing up can be removed by suitable coordinate system. Something would happen, but eventually G00 becomes negative in that region, and that is what will remain. Okay. So what happens? One of the easiest way to see. Let me do that in the next class. I will skip that relativistic star to the next one. Is about the Kruskal coordinate system. Before going to Kruskal coordinate system, you have to see that when you a freely falling observer when falls into black hole, he does not see any fancy business happening when he cross surface r is equal to 2m. He is just happily going inside and hitting singularity. So that means it is fine. Coordinate system is okay there. So for the freely falling observer. So you could use freely falling time coordinate, but there are better coordinate systems. Eventually, the best suited coordinate system, what we call is a Kurzweil coordinate system. So in that case, you have everything behaving fine close to the event horizon. So we will look at the Kruskal coordinate system in which you can map the entire region around the black hole inside and outside and smoothly match it. So no fancy business happening there. But that static limit and stationary limit, event horizon, those are coordinate independent things. They would happen in any coordinate system. But a particular coordinate metric component going to 0 is a coordinate dependent system. So that one can avoid.
Okay, sir. Okay.
We will have to go through that different coordinate system. So that we'll do it on Monday's class. Okay.
And sir,
Yeah.
so this is not the last tutorial, right? We'll have one. Last one will be next week.
Yeah, we will have one more, I guess. Let me see the Calendar, when is the last lecture?
I think 23rd, like next Friday should, according to
23rd
the
is
calendar.
the last day of class.
Okay, so we have one more week. So we have not done any cosmology. So I need to, we have 2 more weeks, right? No, 1 more week.
Yes, sir. One more week.
Okay, so I need to one lecture. Okay, next Thursday we'll do cosmology. It's fairly simple business. Relativity. We are not doing physical cosmology in the. We are doing some relativistic cosmology. So we solve Einstein's equation for cosmological model, and then all the various models expanding. All that thing can be done in one tutorial. So that will do for the next tutorial. But Monday, Tuesday, Monday will do the Kruskal coordinate system, and Tuesday maybe star, a relativistic star, and then Thursday we can do the cosmology part. Cosmology part, physical cosmology done requires at least 1 month, but we are assume some of those physical cosmology being done in astrophysics course. You have done cosmology part in the astrophysics course?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Usually that is also part of the cosmology is also part of the astrophysics course. We used to cover a lot of these things in the there. Okay. Anyway, so this is now is the end. So I should have paid little bit more attention to end, but anyway, relativity part is more or less done. Cosmology, some portion would be easily covered in a couple of hours. So that would be next Thursday. Okay. Any questions?
So the tutorial submission portal is showing the wrong deadline. It's set for 12 a.m. today, so it's
Oh,
overdue.
okay. So let me change that. Upload link. So deadline is 8 p.m. 15. Okay, I did not change the time. I only changed the date. So 20 is a time. And then we have enabled 15 April 20 010 is a cutoff. Okay, so that is done. I will upload the videos by when I get the link. Okay. Any other thing? Any other question? No. Okay. If there are no question, let me stop here.